measure what we value. What does that even mean?
This speaks to why we call the conference Measure What We Value.
Measure what we value is such a powerful statement to me.
Being crystal clear on what we value and then figuring out how we measure that, it should really be the starting point of the conversation.
I realize that a lot of institutions and individuals are incongruent with their articulated values. The practices that institutions uphold and the daily practices that individuals become complicit in literally betray the values that they articulate. What does it mean to say that I value a particular community, but that's not reflected in your budget? The school space feels like violence. Like we become complicit in carrying out these contradictions. And when people take the time to illuminate their values, they start to realize like, yo, I'm not living this out in my daily practice. And so I need tools for moving back into congruence or for the first time into alignment with what I say I believe. And to me, that is an act of radical healing.
What we're finding is people are highly engaged, excited to be a part of this.
Being here and being part of the summit's really powerful. Getting to see how other districts use data. And what's nice is that it's a really small conference, so you get to have a lot more conversations with people and really listen to other people's stories and interact with them.
I'm so passionate about tapping into the knowledges that exist in communities that we typically don't listen to, what Toni Morrison calls discredited knowledges, and leveraging that as a way to heal our systems in real time. And this is a space that they seem like they about that life.
So let's talk.
Dialogue.
It will give you an entry point.
It starts with dialogue.
Going from this idea of this pseudo-community, pretending that we agree with everything, to being like, hey, like, why don't we lean into some of that conflict, but do it in a way that's respectful to each other, right? If I disagree with some of the things that the keynotes are stating about their perspectives on the things we value and how we measure it, how do we have a conversation about that?
We offer it all. It's all there. And just look at it. Just give us a nod. Yeah, just open it.
So I'm going to challenge you because I'm a disruptor. I disrupt the status quo.
Yeah.
If the challenge is getting them to open it, do they own it or do you own it?
For me, it was so thought-provoking. The conversations that the speakers were giving were making you reflect on your own perception and your own place in the system, how your perceptions and your beliefs are blinded by your own experiences. The idea that you need to take a step back and think about others' experience to be truly in relationship with people and truly communicating with people was really insightful. And I think the conversations that we were having at our table were really powerful. Certainly made me think about some things.
We're engaging in conversations together, tackling real life controversies and topics head on, and engaging and actually having some of those conversations about things and providing ideas on doing the work when you go back to your industry.
A lot of brain power trying to make sure it's right.
If you take a look at EdTech in general, there's still a very heavy emphasis on quantitative data. At Parsec, we see that there is value in both quantitative data and qualitative data.
I love data.
When you marry those two together, now you actually see a beautiful picture, the whole picture.
I'm really passionate about data. Data helps you tell a story. It helps you check your preconceived notions, but data doesn't tell the entire story. And that's the thing that we also have to remember, that while numbers don't lie, how we interpret them can. So it's important to take data, but then also take, human voices and other pieces and bring them all together to try and get the whole story then at that point to make decisions.
Oftentimes when we work with districts, they're looking at data, but we're not measuring the things that actually we value within the school system. And that oftentimes is student voice. How are students experiencing our systems and organization? And it's a piece that's left out. So we're trying to look and explore ways to bring that into the conversation and ensure that we're bringing the community, parents, students into that data analysis as we're having conversations about change.
And not a lot of students show up to board meetings, so it's important just to have my eyes there. Yes.
Internally, I've always had issues with measuring our kids only by their assessment and test scores. It does not capture our whole child. It doesn't capture all the amazing things our kids do and who they are and how we can best help them. So being here and hearing the research behind that, hearing the other speakers and just validating those feelings and also giving me steps, very concrete steps to start really measuring what our kids are doing that makes them successful and how we can capitalize on that and how we as educators can support them in being successful whole adults, whole human beings, rather than just simply the test scores.
What do my kids value?
You can't make good decisions with bad data. And so now that we're at a point where we have good information within our system, we can use that to make decisions, and now we can start to take the next steps with that and incorporate more. We can see our needs better.
Prioritize understanding the other person.
I heard another colleague talking about being more proactive with data and less reactive, and I think that's what Parsec Academy can bring to the table.
To be attacked by the teacher.
There's been really good workshops on various things that affect the system as a whole. We've had workshops on diversity and hiring practices, all the way to how we incorporate math strategies for EL learners, right? Like there's so many different things that will help expose ways that we can impact our system.
What we try to do at Parsec is we really try to model the things we're hoping to see in school systems. This is why our first keynote speaker was a student.
I think the biggest piece from my speech would definitely be for people to become radical thinkers, specifically educators in their classrooms.
But we can't ignore that when we don't value something, it's difficult for us to assess it in a positive manner. When we don't value something, it's even difficult for us to actually see it at all. We have to confront this. We have to figure out how to analyze the systems and methods of assessment we're currently using to repair those so that they're much more culturally and linguistically responsive. Radical, right?
She was like sharing her story, and she was giving us, as adults, feedback around how, right, to support students.
Well, as educators, we have to commit to being radicals. After all, the word radical comes from the Latin word radix, which means root. A radical is considered the fundamental or basic part of something, just like a root is the base of a plant. And you, the educators, are the root of how our young people can grow into healthy human beings.
I think it's those kind of topics that are important to engage in building a better system for our kids.
I think it's honestly very important for our students to acknowledge that their voice has power, that they have power, and everything that we do is for them. It's something that they want to make known, and with everything going on right now, whether it's political, whether it's environmental, whether it's stuff with deportations, it doesn't matter what it is. Our students have that voice, our students have an opinion, and they're going to express it, and I am honestly very proud that they are finding that courage to do so.
If we don't know our students, then how do we know how to affect them? How do we know how to impact them and impact them for future generations or be able to get to college? So when we survey them, now we can use that data to drive what we do.
As a small child, I remember school being fun. The question is, what changed from first grade to 9th grade? What makes the color and excitement from the books and learning fade away? It is a lack of human connection, which leads to a lack of joy and engagement.
My first session, I chose listening to the students in the harmful language, and that's been like my favorite part so far is listening to student voices. I always think we don't hear enough from our student population about what's impacting them.
With my experience of racism or discrimination, it's not right in your face.
What sets the Measure What We Value Summit apart is that it really is all about connection. It's about giving space to bring voices into the room. It's about how do we dialogue and discuss really challenging topics that are going to push our thinking and make us really uncomfortable, but in a way that is in community and relationship with one another.
Dialogue is not an act that seeks truth or right or wrong or agreement.
If there's anything that the audience could take away, it's asking why. We operate in this standards, we're just given mandates and without questioning the why, or is that important? And in the classroom, thinking about teachers, thinking about students receiving that instruction, superintendents providing mandates and policies that create rules that enforce certain behaviors. All those things need some level of understanding the why. And my hope is that the attendees here, the participants here this year will walk away with more discernment into the why of these things.
That's how important the power of words are.
I'm super passionate about this specific piece of the educational landscape, and I think the shift in education is that our focus is now going to be on student learning, the student outcome piece of it, as opposed to we put a lot of effort in our credentialing programs into teaching best practices, strategies, how do you teach this the best way, lesson plan. But if the students aren't learning on the other end of that teaching, you could have the most amazing lesson plan. It could be beautiful. It could look so wonderful on paper. But the reality is if the students aren't actually learning the content that you are wanting them to learn, what's it for?
There's a disconnect there. That's small.
Some people may say all we did was talk, right? And all we did was dialogue, but nothing happened. And I would argue that actually by the act of going through this process, by being uncomfortable, what's going to happen is you're going to go into your school environment. You're going to go into your community. And when you hear that, it's going to cause something in you. And you're going to have a choice to either be, we talked about being radically candid. You'll have a choice to either be radically candid, right? And be like, you know what, I'm going to challenge directly, but I'm also going to care personally at the same time. And I'm going to put myself in an uncomfortable space and go through an intellectual battle in my head to figure out how to do this and enter the danger into that uncomfortable situation. That's the hope. Because if, whatever we had 300-ish people here, right? If even like 10%, 30 people decide to do that, that's going to start to change.
It was really eye-opening. And I just loved hearing everybody's different perspectives. I have a lot that I took away that I would love to share with our admin team and teachers, and just very eye-opening, I think, to have those hard conversations. And uncomfortable, but necessary, I think. And I think that's good to share that, when there's trust with your team, your staff, then you can have those uncomfortable conversations.
The dialogue is a part of the education process. Hence the one of the quotes that we had at the end, right? Like, there is no education without communication.
If we really believe in that value, then we need to leverage it, and we need to engage with it, and we need to relish in that genius to shape the future of our world, because it's all socially constructed. We're making it up, right? And so we need to reimagine what we are constructing in ways that connect to the values that we say we have.
It's also bringing it to our site leadership, our district leadership, and our school boards to understand street data is incredibly important. It takes a very long time to affect that satellite data, and we need that time and that trust to be building those relationships with kids, to be measuring those things that we value, and that trust that if we are focusing hard on that, the satellite data will eventually catch up.
Well, there's a saying, hope is not a strategy. In education, sometimes hope is all you have. And the idea that you can come into a setting like this and you see people here that are interested in learning to impact the lives of students, to do their job better on behalf of students, that's hope. Now, whether or not anyone takes anything and walks out of here and actually does anything is a different story, but the fact that people are here means that they're interested, and there's hopefulness in the idea that we can do education better.
We're here with an open mind and an open heart, ready to hear the hard things. I think the teachers that need to hear this most are not here today. That is the hard truth, and it's up to us to bring it back to them, that information, and share it with them.
I like hearing student invoice, not just teachers or administrators. I want to know what kids think. How do we help you? Are you learning from us? What do we need to do? Did Biff different in Bridge to College to affect change. And when I met the students, I was excited because I thought, good, we get to hear from what they're thinking. How do they feel about us adults working with them? Are we doing the right things? Are we bringing the right programs? Are we listening to you? And not only listening, are we doing what you say? Because that's what, I'm gonna cry now. That's what I want to do with Bridge to College, is be able to serve our students and serve their needs. And with Parsec and data, we can do that. We want to be able to elevate what we're doing and innovate what we're doing to help students be successful.
Being in this space, it's very clear that the people who have organized this space and the people who are showing up here are serious about this work. And they're serious not about the over-articulation of what's broken, but thinking about actual practical, tangible ways to heal it. And so I'm just honored to be in this room and with these folks, because this social moment needs it now more than ever. What's important to me is that we make sure that our students, and they are so good with bringing in student voice, are also at the center of this conversation, because they have wisdom that we can't even imagine, and tapping into that is going to make all the difference.
Babatunde said it best, every data point is a life. And sometimes we forget that. Because we're so interested in moving the numbers, we forget that there's a whole life behind that, lives behind that. And I think this conference is a nice reminder of that.
I want to make sure that with data, we're affecting change.